Hello and welcome to another edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Charles Fallon, back in here with another episode. And oh boy, nothing happened this week. There was totally no big news stories, nothing to see here, nothing to talk about news wise. Obviously, that's cap, as the kids would say. We got a big story to talk about to lead this thing off. That has completely overshadowed Diego's dominance in West Virginia. And some of the struggles by big names in the standings. So we'll get right into that, as you can probably guess what it is if you've been keeping up with the ASCA news recently. But before we get into it, first off, we gotta shout out the ASCA's premier partners, Rowdy Energy. Click the link in bio. Go cop yourself one. You already know there's so many good flavors to get. So click that link in bio and go get one. And then Circle B diecast, Plan B sales. Hey, if you want a Diego Orkedi diecast, replica diecast, that is, or a Todd Kidd replica diecast, these are two elite level drivers. Look like they're going to be the ones battling it out for the championship this season. Go on over to Circle B diecast, Plan B sales. If you spend over $20 there, use coupon code ASCA for free shipping at checkout inside the US. I'd say that's well worth it. So, yeah, shout out to Rowdy Energy and Circle B Diecast / Plan B sales. So yeah, let's get right into the news. And obviously, the news is Laquon Scransen has been arrested by the FBI in Morgantown. I believe he was just getting ready to leave there and head back to Michigan for prep for the Stoneyard weekend, flying back out to New Hampshire, where obviously as he's getting ready to leave Morgantown, Scranton engages in a high-speed car chase with the FBI. Originally, the cops had him pulled over, but then they disclosed that they had a federal warrant for his arrest, so Scranton pulled off and sped, and that's when the high-speed car chase began, and obviously ended with Scranton trying to flee on foot. They sent out the canines to track him down, and he has been arrested and remains in federal custody. They've been rather tight-lipped about it, as they always are with the FBI, but this is huge. This, um, especially with the news that Credit One Bank has terminated their direct sponsorship contract with Scranton, and the fact that he's been denied bail. This looks like it could be the end of the road for his career. And man, if it truly is the end for Scranton, this is just going to be one of those situations where I think this is probably Scranton will go down as the biggest wasted talent the sport has ever seen. This kid has special potential. We saw it last year when he was able to show it, with the right team around him, and you know equipment that could compete. It's not. It obviously wasn't where TD Rose Racing, Ronnie was motorsports level equipment, but it was good enough for Scranton to drag that car up to fourth in points with 3 wins and nearly double the amount of laps led of any other driver last season. So it was good enough. Obviously, it got the job done. And mind you, he was only 21 years old last year, only 22 now, and he already has 5 cup wins. Obviously, got off to a slow start this season, but we just saw last year the true potential that this kid has. He could have been a cup champion. Not could have, he would have been a cup champion for Dexter Andrews Motorsports. That's why they locked him up to a long-term extension. What was a 10-year extension back in 2023 that was supposed to last through the 2034 season. And obviously, Dexter Andrews Motorsports, they've kept their contract with Scranton. They're holding out hope. They provided him legal counsel. They obviously want him to beat the case so we can get back in the car. But when you look at what the 93% conviction rate that the feds have, you look at the fact that they're trying to bring up a RICO case against Scransen, and that is serious business. You do not want to catch a RICO case. You catch a RICO charge, that's a minimum of 20 years in jail, and that's what they're trying to indict Scransen and a few of his other buddies on is a RICO charge. So that's bad news right there for DAM and for the ASC as a whole. Honestly, this is Scransen was truly, arguably, the greatest young talent the sport has ever seen, and I don't just throw that around lightly. Like he was something special, and you saw it. You've seen it. No other driver has won 5 cup races at the age of 21, and he was going to do special things in the sport. I think he had the potential to be a Diego Orkedi type driver, a 4-time champion, a Ronnie Woods with 4 championships. He had the potential to be on that level, be that dude in this next generation, and really carry Dexter Andrews Motorsports to the top with him. But unfortunately, it's just not looking too good. And it's a shame, man. It really is. But obviously, he had been pushing his luck quite a bit before, all these years, all these arrests throughout his career thus far. I'm trying to remember right now how many it's been. I think it's been at least 4 since joining the ASCA. At least 4. It could even be more. There's probably more that I'm forgetting. He served jail time on numerous occasions, but this one is serious. It's obviously during the season, so it's going to be hard for him to get out of it. And of course, they're denying him bail. So, what does this mean for the future of Dexter Andrews Motorsports, though? We'll talk about them first, and then we'll talk about the ASCA because I think obviously when you lose a talent like this, it affects the entire sport in a negative way. But for Dexter Andrews Motorsports, they have some serious soul searching to do. And obviously, they were kind of prepared for this when they first heard the FBI was investigating. That's why they brought Derek Lewis back on a veteran's minimum contract, 1 year, 500,000 to be the reserve driver. And he has been announced to be participating in the number 42 for this Saturday's Airs 200 and at least for the next few races of the season. So they have their immediate answer in Derek Lewis. But long term, where do you look? Obviously, Chris Barrymore is available. They could very well hop in the Chris Barrymore sweepstakes. They do have, in terms of development drivers, they have Aiden Romo right down there. They have Gavin Lawson in the Craftsman Series as well, and also have promising prospect coming up through the ranks, Noah Booth as well. When you look at the free agent market, I am sure that they are kicking themselves for letting Gunnar Thorson walk to go to Taylor Motorsports. We're going to talk more about Thorson and the incredible season that he and Taylor Motorsports have had thus far in both Craftsman and Cup in 2025. But he definitely could have been an option to replace Scransen in that number 42, but obviously he's not at the team anymore. So in terms of free agency, maybe do they try to see if they can finesse Braden Bennett? Do they try to go after a Ross Jackson in the 42? They have options for where they could go here long term in this ride. But obviously the short term is Derek Lewis. He will probably fill that seat, I would say, at least until the Windows 300. And then they'll probably evaluate what to do from there for the second half of the season. But it's truly going to be a shame transitioning to how this affects the ASCA. Not having a talent like Scransen on the grid for next week's race is going to be a shame. You know, a lot of people watch these races to see what this kid can do and his rivalries with Orkidi and Ayers and the likes of those guys. I think he went out with Brandon Woods before. He's gotten into it with quite a few different guys, obviously. He's got a fiery personality, tons and tons of pace. Um, you know, like I said, the most raw pace, raw talent I've ever seen out of a young driver. But obviously the off the field stuff, it was going to catch up with him eventually, and it finally did. So, you know, obviously they had the SCA that has taken Scranton out of most of their promotional materials for this year. They had, you know, kind of put his 22-year-old counterpart, Carson Schmidt, in that role. And, you know, there are still box office young talents on the grid. Like I just said, Carson Schmidt, he's one of them. Shane Park, certainly another one of them who doesn't get enough shine. I think he certainly could pick up the slack for where Scranton left off. It's also a big void on the road courses because Scranton normally put up a fight on those, except for the Sears Streets Computerville race where he's taken out within the first 10 laps. Led the most laps in 3 straight road course races, obviously won the most recent race at Michigan before his arrest last season that led to the investigation from the FBI that led to this arrest. You know, so it's tough. It's a tough situation all around, and you hate to see it. You hate to see a young kid, 22 years old, only born in 2003. You hate to see a kid like that probably going to prison for the next 2 decades, if not more. When he had so much talent, so much life ahead of him, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to realize that. Even if he was given bail at any point, he's suspended by the ASCA, and I don't see how they unsuspend him until at least the end of the season, if not longer. And then you have to also factor in he has no sponsorship anymore, and he's burned through 3 different primary sponsors in 4 years. Credit One Bank was the only sponsor that returned, and they've now terminated their contract with Scranton. So it's a tough situation all around, man. And you hate to see it. You really do. And it's tough, but it is what it is. I think the ASCA and Dexter Indies Motorsports, they have kind of handled this the best they can. And it's just a shame. It really is. But nonetheless, that's enough about Scranton. How about we discuss the race that actually happened on Saturday in West Virginia? 2 words to describe that race: Diego Orkedi. That's all you need to say. Man, this guy is on a roll right now. Just incredible. 80 of 100 laps led, 27 career victories, has won 3 out of his last 4 at West Virginia, back-to-back on the season, now 3rd on the all-time wins list, the active leader on the all-time wins list. And it just seems like every week now, Diego is either tying or breaking records. Like he is just in that echelon. And you got to think, again, he's at 27 wins. CJ Barrymore is at 28. Ronnie Woods is at 32. There's a chance that by the end of next season, Diego could very well be the Ajax Cup Series all-time wins leader, which is absolutely insane to say, considering he'd only be 35 years old at the time. And even right now, he's only 34, at 3rd on the all-time wins list, just surpassed a 37-year-old Brandon Woods. And that's the thing, is it seemed like Woods kind of began to sputter around this age, especially his age 34 season, coming off a championship in 2022, which went winless, and wasn't even close necessarily to winning a race. And he's really just kind of been off and on since. He's had his moments. I think obviously 2023, he really mounted a championship charge, looked like he'd get his third title. And then the final quarter of the season happened, and the 18 team just fell apart, fell flat on their faces. And now you see where he's at now. He hasn't won in 22 races, and neither has Michael White Racing. But Diego is on the best team, and you could argue is the best driver on the grid. And at this point, is he the title favorite to complete his drive for 5? That's a tough question, honestly. It really is. Tough question because Todd Kidd's kind of right there, and he's kind of finished top 4 in the first 3 races. He's also kind of won one of those, and he also kind of leads the points. So you've got Kidd and you've got Orkedi, now 11 back. Orkedi, another thing about Diego is this is his fastest start to a season ever. Remember 2021 where he won a career high 4 races? Yeah, he only won 2 out of the first 4. He won the first and the 4th race of the season. This year, he wins the 2nd and the 3rd race of the season. So he's off to an even faster start than he was in 2021, which is insane to think about. So Diego is just like other than Todd Kidd, I don't see anyone that can stop him. Now, the problem is Todd Kidd is more than capable of an opponent. We've seen, obviously, how close Kidd has come all these years, and he has all that experience in these championship battles. Even close ones, he got that opportunity in 2022, and the only reason he lost it in the title decider is because a lap car blew a tire right into him while he was running 4th place. So Kidd has experience. He's come so close. It's his 10th season of competition. He's right in his prime, and he and the 9 team are hooked up. But obviously, so is Diego. And we head to his best track next week at the Stone Yard, and we're going to preview the Airs 200 weekend in a bit. But yeah, so that's kind of that. Diego, is he the title favorite? Tough to say, but I think we've certainly seen in these opening couple weeks that Diego and Kidd have separated themselves. It looks like it's going to be them two and everyone else the rest of the year. So when it comes to guys who need to panic, title pretenders, at least for this season, Cameron Atwood, Ross Jackson, Braden Bennett. Is it time to panic? Is it time to sound the alarm? I think for Bennett and Jackson, absolutely. Why? For both of them. They're both in contract seasons. And for them to be running as poorly as they are, I think specifically Jackson, he's on a much hotter seat than Bennett is. Bennett, I think regardless of how bad he is going to at least get a 1-year extension. Just because Michael White Racing doesn't know what they have. This could be a sophomore slump for Bennett. We're only 3 races in, mind you. So this could very well just be a sophomore slump. Or his rookie year could have been a fluke. We just don't know. You need more than 2 years to judge a rookie driver. Meanwhile, Ross Jackson has had those 2 years. Entering his 3rd season, still has yet to win a race, still has yet to finish within the top 12 in points, let alone the top 10. Regressed last season from 14 to 17 to the standings, and now has regressed even further. It's just like, man, Like, is this guy ever gonna figure it out at the cup level? So I think for Jackson, like, he needs a big run this weekend. He really does. He needs a top five, or at the very least, just being in the mix. He needs something. He needs a big result. I would say in top five for Jackson. I think Bennett, um, in terms of his job, does he need to panic? No. But in terms of the championship, absolutely. He also needs a big run. I think he's pretty much been eliminated from the championship, as crazy as it sounds. Because let's be real, he's not going to pluck Cameron Atwood 2023 and go out and win the next three races. I mean, anything can happen in the ASCA, but come on now. He hasn't even won one yet, let alone winning three. So obviously that's incredibly doubtful. So, who knows? Speaking of Cameron Atwood, is it time for him to panic? Now 17th in the driver's standings. We do head to one of his best tracks, though. He nearly did win the Airs 200 last season. Again, we'll talk about that race in a bit. So yeah, is it time to panic for Atwood? No, I don't think so. In terms of real deal championship, maybe, because Diego and Kid are just so far out there. But I still think that he can salvage it and turn this into a decent season. If he runs like crap at the Stone Yard, then I'm like, okay, something's amiss here. Then it's time to sound the alarms. But I think Atwood's gonna, have a big weekend this weekend at the Stone Yard. He needs one. It's one of his best tracks. This team has made some mistakes. They gotta come out and be perfect for a week. And I think that they're gonna get that on Saturday in the Airs 200. Now, moving onwards to the future of the ASCA. Craftsman Series is obviously off this week. They will be back next Friday night in the Exalta 100 under the lights at Disney Motor Speedway. That's going to be a really fun race. It was one last season as well, that battle between Bennett and Atwood for the race victory. But for the future of the ASCA, we talked about, obviously, the issue with Laquon Scransen and the fact that, he's probably done for at this point. But have no fear, ASCA fans, because we have some exciting young talents ready to take his place. Look no further than at the Craftsman Series point standings right now. Tony Del Valle II is driving like a man possessed. He's 18, but he's driving like a man that's twice his age. It's insane how mature he is for a rookie with less than 10 ASCA starts under his belt. I mean, seriously, what he did at the Streets Computerville was something. But then, even at West Virginia, how he handled being kind of bullied out of the way by Doug Fallon. He didn't let it get to him. He stayed calm, stayed cool, stayed collected, ran his race, brought home another top three finish, and now leads by 18. 18 points for an 18-year-old rookie atop the standings over, guess who? Another 18-year-old rookie, Gunnar Thorson, driving for Taylor Motorsports. Mind you, this is only Thorson's third start. It was that Friday at West Virginia. That was only his third start in the ASCA. And yet here he sits top two in the standings. I mean, he's just been outstanding this year, especially when you consider this is a brand new team in Taylor Motorsports. Like, who would have predicted? Even the biggest Enduro fanboys cannot have predicted the rise of Thorson and Taylor Motorsports this early. And like I said earlier, Dexter and Andrews Motorsports, they've got to be kicking themselves right now. Like, we had this dude. We had the future of our team in case something went awry with Laquon, and we let him walk out the door For what? For nothing, basically. They better hope that Gunnar Thorson, Aiden Romo, and Noah Booth are those dudes, because otherwise, man, because Thorson, he is the real deal. He is legit. And I'm excited. I really hope the championship battle is between these two. Obviously, they got to go out, Thorson and the rest of the Craftsman competition. They just have to go out and catch Salval. 3rd through 16th are separated by a combined 19 points. Meanwhile, Tony Doval leads Gunnar Thorson atop the standings by 18 points. So that just kind of shows where things are. It's Doval, Thorson, and everyone else. That's basically where it's at right now. Every driver in the series has a top 10 finish in the opening 3 weeks, besides Toby Beckett. Like, the Craftsman Series is just simply sensational this season. There's no other way to put it. It's just incredible racing every week, and I cannot wait. Like I said, I can't wait to see him racing on a short track under the lights next Friday. Man, that's going to be fun with this field. You notice we haven't even talked about defending champion Graham Darty in that future conversation. He's kind of been buried this year. Doval and Thorson have stolen the show so much. And then when you want to look at other future talents, how about Will Moon, 20 years old? How about Ian Romo, 30-year driver? You know, there's certainly some bright budding young stars that are ready to leave their mark on the sport and have a lot less off the field baggage. And I'm sure the ASCA greatly appreciates that second part, especially. And so do their organizations. So now we move on to the Airs 200 weekend preview. And like I said earlier, the Craftsman Series is off for this week. This is their first off week of the campaign. So it's this cup only. It's a 2-day weekend. You run 2 practice sessions, qualifying that afternoon, race on Saturday at 1 p.m. And big news story that we didn't cover on because of the whole thing with Laquon kind of overshadowing it is 2-time champion Randall Woods and his championship-winning crew chief Steve Wallace have parted ways. That, I think, is going to be something big to watch out for. Because David Jaquiz, however you say it, his interim crew chief's name is filling in that role. He was the lead engineer for Orkedi Bros Racing. So they poached him from OBR, said, come on over here, run this, help us out over here. So that's big for Michael Y Racing to take a guy like that away from a dynasty like Orkedi Bros Racing. And it's going to be interesting to see how those two kind of get on in their first week together. Certainly cannot wait to see that. But yeah, obviously we talked about it. This race last year, Cameron Atwood and Chris Barrymore put on a show, especially on that final lap. Will they collide again? I don't know. Obviously, they didn't exactly collide, but they came very close. I definitely think they're going to be in contention for a race victory. I definitely think Diego Orkedi and Todd Kidd will be in contention for a race victory as well. Both of them have won here. And obviously, we remember, go back to 2022, they both collided here as well. So they have plenty of history at this track. Diego, of course, a 6-time winner. But let's remember that Diego also has not won here since 2021, which is kind of crazy. He's also never gone 3 in a row. So the stats aren't necessarily looking to say, oh, Diego's definitely going to win this race. But they're also not pointing towards Todd Kidd either. He's only won here once back in 2020. Obviously, that could change. But, we'll see. I think it's certainly going to be an interesting race. It's going to be interesting to see how Derek Lewis does his first weekend in the 42. Just kind of getting reacclimated to Ajax Cup racing after missing the opening 3 weeks of the new year. all that's going to be very, very intriguing to follow. And I'm ready to get back to racing. Obviously, things have been clouded recently with the Scransen news, but the best way to put that behind us for the ASCA, for Dexterity Motorsports, for everyone involved is just to get back out there and race and put on a good show. Put on a good show for the fans. So that's what we want to see. We just want to see good, hard, fantastic racing. And I think that the Stone Yard, more often than not, delivers that plus a great finish as the cherry on top. But that is it for this edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Charles Fallon, signing out. We're going to see you after this Stone Yard to discuss all the action there. Hopefully, we've got a great finish to talk about as well, like we did in this race last season.